that the end is really near by Jay Wilburn. That what I have as a title. We're going to start from scratch, as all stories do, and we'll see if we can come up with something decent for this particular story. All right. Devin Haney, laid back in his hammock, staring up through the trees at the deceptively blue skies. I guess it has to be sky singular, right? Deceptively blue sky. A man could look up there all day without being reminded that the end of the world for humanity, at least, and many other species too, was just around the corner. That was exactly the type of self-deception. I'm about to say, I know I didn't spell that right. That was exactly the type of self-deception Devin had planned for today. He could already hear Nathaniel Wesley stalking through the leaves down the slope to disturb Devin's plans for the day. Devin did his best to put on a genuine smile that hid any irritation he harbored for this man. Nate hadn't come into view yet, but Devin recognized him by the pace and intensity of his walk. The smile felt good. Devin had succeeded at that also. Nate wasn't smiling. Nate wasn't smiling as he leaned into... Excuse me, I'm tired. Nate wasn't smiling as he leaned into Devin's view. Devin half expected the man to flip him over and dump him onto the ground. That didn't happen, though. Not right away. And not today. I'm telling you again that you need to get ready. Devin sighed and felt the smile slip a little. He had done the best he could. And I'm telling you to do as you like, Nate. But I also know that nothing we do is going to save the world this time. So I'm not talking about saving the world. I'm talking about saving ourselves. Why did you go to all the trouble to fight your way up here with us if you are just giving up? Wanted peace and quiet for the end, Devin said. You could help me with that wish a little if you'd just let up. I don't want you to go, Nate said. And on a selfish note, you staying out here unprepared when it does sweep over us affects us too. I see it differently, Nate. I don't care how you see it. You will be changed. You'll be changed by it. You will get desperate at the last moment and come to take what is mine. Or others will come and force you to tell them where we are. It's not just about you. I'm going to have to ask you again to leave me in peace, Nate. I care about you, or I wouldn't have helped you get here at all. But I've made my decision. You'll just have to trust that I'll be dead and gone before I can be any trouble to you. And I hope you fighting to survive what is sweeping over this world proves worth it to you. Nate huffed and stepped away from view. Devin braced himself to be dumped, from his hammock this time. More footsteps approached through the leaves. Even though the couple was approaching at once, he recognized the gait of Forrest and Abby Buster, separate from each other. Of course, since they were the only other two left up here, it wasn't much of a magic trick to know it was them. Nate shouted, "You two try to get through to him. I'm getting nowhere, and I have too much work to keep wasting my time here." Nate stormed off as Forrest and Abby stepped into view on the other side. "Will do," Forrest called and waved at Nate's back. Abby asked, "How are you doing?" "Doing great, considering," Devin said. "I wish that Nate would stay busy with all the stuff he says is keeping him busy, and just leave me alone out here." Forrest said, "Well, you know why he's concerned. He cares about you. He'll miss you," Abby said. "He fears I'll give him up. Turn into someone else when it gets really bad, and pose a threat to him, Devin said. Pose a threat to him, Devin said. Probably a little of both. Forrest agreed with them. I see doing anything more than waiting out my days as a waste of those last few good days, Devin said. I understand the rest of you fighting and scratching for a little bit more. I understand the rest of you fighting and scratching for a little bit more. But that's not for me. Maybe if you just pretended a little, Forrest said. Devin smiled again and felt all the humor in it. Pretend to prepare for the end of the world. How much time should I devote to that game for Nate's peace of mind? You're pretending now, Abby said. You're sitting here pretending everything is fine. So, what's the difference in humoring Nathaniel a little? Pretending to make him happy won't work, Devin said. And it's way more work than just enjoying my final days. We respect your decision. Forrest said as he turned Abby by her shoulder. We'll try to keep Nate calm and away from you as best we can. He's grieving, Devon said. Grieving for himself. All right, let me fix this. Grieving for himself and the entire world. They left with no further discussion, and Devon fell asleep out there for most of the afternoon before he even attempted to read the book he had brought with him. He had already read it twice, though. Scene break. Well, I don't know what that's about. I don't need that kind of break. Undo borderlines. Stop automatically creating borderlines. There you go. That's what I need, is for you to stop automatically creating borderlines. Must have been something with the update where it keeps wanting to create these borders instead of just letting me put the symbols I want in there. Alright, so we got a scene break. Devon cast his line out again. 3 fish, were a great haul, especially with the size of the last one. That he was enjoying the act of fishing as much as the reward of fresh meat later. Nate's familiar footsteps turned into a familiar stomp as he paced out to the end of the dock with all his scolding energy. What can I do for you, Nate? Get your head out of your A and start carrying your weight around here. Devon sighed and started reeling in his bait slowly across the top of the lake. Fishing. Alright, I got an extra "the" in here. Fishing was much easier when you were the last one. Oh, hey, man, I didn't see you earlier, sorry. I'm doing well today. I've started walking a good bit more, trying to do the Fitbit challenges and stuff with some friends. So I'm getting a lot more exercise in, probably obsessively, but whatever it takes. Fishing was much easier when you were the last one left to do it. I'm gathering food like you wanted me to. You're a real jerk sometimes. Devin, I don't understand it. Well, no more offense than is necessary. Nate. Just saw my Goodreads profile, thanks. I'm not on there nearly as much as I should be, I don't think. Well, no more offense than is necessary, Nate. But you are one to talk. This lake is poisoned, and so are the fish in it. I have told you this. I told you this before. I seem to be holding up just fine, friend. It accumulates. You'll be sick beyond saving in weeks or months at the outside. Well, lucky for me, we will be swept over long before that. Damn it, Devin. I'm hoping to talk you into surviving before then. So I need you to stop eating these fish. Devin reeled in his line without waiting for a fourth bite. He started to gather his gear as quickly as he could. Alright, by the way, I hit my first anniversary in the last month of reading a book a day. Oh, wow. That's a lot. So are you saying reading every day or reading an entire book every day? Either one's impressive, but which one do you mean there? Devin reeled in his line without waiting for a fourth bite. He started gathering his gear as quick as he could. Nate couldn't bear the silence. 365 books in a year. That is insane. I'm a pretty slow reader. In the aggregate, I get through books pretty quick when I'm focused, but it takes me a lot of hours to get through. There's no way I read a book in a year. But last year, the average was only 189 pages. That's still a lot in a day. Yeah, that's not a book a day, but that's still a lot. This year is 272 by now. Nice. Yeah, that if that's the average, yeah, because then longer and shorter books. 365 books. That's amazing. And it's a good use of your time too, because you know the list of books that you want to read that you never have time for is endless. You know, and new ones are added all the time. And then I also like to revisit books sometimes. So like I reread all of Stephen King's books not that long ago, so I was rereading ones I'd already read, and I'm doing the same thing with Brian Keene now. So if you add that in, there's so little time. So to be able to knock out an entire book each day is awesome. It's the best and worst thing I did. That probably sums it up. Yeah, I kind of feel that way on everything. Like if I run or walk a long distance, or if I get a lot of writing done, or if I do like sit down and buckle down and get a ton of reading done, you feel good about doing it. You feel good about what you get out of it, but then it's like it's exhausting. It's like a mental marathon. 95% nonfiction. I think that might run smoothly too. The idea of reading nonfiction. I think well, it depends on the subject. You know, there's some heavy nonfiction out there, but there's sometimes that might be a little easier to follow through than a story, a fiction story that gets kind of complex sometimes. And then of course, you know, depending on your author, you get fiction stories that can get up to 3, 4, 500 pages or more. So nonfiction kind of lends itself a little more to that. I finished all the works of Nishi not too long ago. Oh, my goodness. Now that is some heavy reading. That's not something that flows smoothly. You really have to put some thought into that. Now I'm finishing all the works of Plato. See, all that stuff makes you better. So whatever else you're trying to do, all that knowledge that you're gathering informs it. It makes you a better writer. It makes you a better communicator. It makes you a better thinker. It allows you to analyze things better. Even if you don't adopt what you're reading whole cloth, you know, where it's like, I believe every word of this, like that's not necessary, but just the act of doing that is awesome. So congratulations on your anniversary. That's impressive. And it's especially impressive with the level of stuff that you're reading. That's a lot. I will not be reading a book every day. I just try to read every day. Well, you also get pretty heavy thoughts. Yeah, that's true. I was about to say with Nietzsche especially, that's reading book after book of existential dread, kind of weigh down on you, depending on what you're going through. That would be the bad part. That's funny. All right, Nate couldn't bear the silence. Couldn't bear like the lull, let's say, because it's not really silent. He's gathering his gear. Well, he went crazy. I'm not. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, if you can take in the thoughts of a crazy man without going crazy, that's pretty good. Nate couldn't bear the lull. Yeah. Nate couldn't bear the lull. What was I going to have him say here? I'm tired of you not taking this seriously. Devin lifted his bucket of fish last. I can take this seriously. An Indian philosopher I'm reading now. There you go. So now that's interesting too. So like I imagine that Eastern philosophy works by a different framework than much of the Western philosophy. That's sort of just kind of even when it contradicts each other, it's still kind of built on the same framework. So it'd be interesting to compare some of the completely different lines of thinking that you would get from a philosopher from a different tradition. So I guess a lot of your nonfiction is some of the philosophers and stuff. Devin lifted his bucket of fish last. I can take this seriously without coming to the same conclusions as you. You know, I was type A and work focused as long as you have known me. I prepped same as you before it all fell apart. I came with you to flee the chaos. Now I've decided that to flee the chaos. Okay, I have an extra line down here. Now I've decided that my time is better spent enjoying simple things before civilization is scorched. Say scoured. I don't want to make it sound too clear what this apocalypse actually is that's coming to them. Things before civilization is scoured from the earth. So, with respect, I'm going to sleep in. I'm going to read. I'm going to relax. And I'm going to eat fish. Okay, in the wrong spot there. Nate grabbed the rim of the bucket and caused Devin to drop all the rest of his gear, scattered around their feet. Get your hands off me and mine, Nate. I mean it. All right. It was somehow scary how many of his opinions are similar to mine. Oh wow, that's interesting. Just the end result is way different. Well, that's interesting too. Coming to the same thoughts, but maybe different conclusions. Well, and it always helps to learn from other people's mistakes and such too. So if you can take what they've been through and use it to guide your own course, that's really the use of philosophy. So basically his answer on everything is spirituality. Well, there you go. And for its philosophy itself and finding personal purpose in philosophy. Yep. Yeah, it's interesting when you can take somebody's ideas and see how they apply to you, even when their framework may be completely different. So, if you're not a spiritual person or you come from a viewpoint of atheism, then that can sometimes make it difficult to look down into the conclusions of a spiritual person and be able to draw where they come out to you, especially if their framework is about something bigger. By the way, if anything doesn't make sense, just tell me. English is still my second. No, you're making perfect sense. It's funny. I come from sort of a spiritual standpoint too, but I kind of approach everything, every discussion, every idea, everything that I do from the standpoint of the idea that I could be wrong. So even though I believe in God and believe in some more traditional interpretations of spirituality, I always approach that whenever I'm talking to anybody else, whether they're of the same traditions as me or not, that I could be wrong. So it allows me to kind of take in their ideas without feeling threatened from even my own fundamental beliefs. So I can have those discussions without it threatening my identity in any way. And it also allows me to better see when I'm wrong, because I've lived long enough to know that I'm wrong on big and small things more often than I'm right. So being able to think, okay, I could be wrong before I start any kind of discussion kind of frees me to do that. Now, it doesn't mean I have to cast away everything I believe every time I talk to somebody, but it allows me to talk to them more openly and honestly, without it being like a every conversation then on philosophy or religion or anything or politics or anything else doesn't have to be an argument that I have to win. It can just be a discussion that even if the other person gets upset, I don't have to join them in that stance or whatever. So it's allowed me to learn more things outside of my own framework by being able to entertain the idea that I could be wrong. And as I get older, frankly, I just trust my own conclusions less and less. So even the most fundamental things I believe about the existence of God and the meaning of life and everything else, thank you for the raid. Even with all those things, I I trust my own conclusions less and less. Like, I've seen myself get things wrong too often to hold too tightly to the idea that I'm suddenly right about everything at this exact moment. And frankly, even people who agree with me on spirituality or other things like that, I trust their conclusions less and less too. So there's so many about people who on the surface believe the same thing I do, but behave in ways that I wouldn't think that those beliefs would approve of. That I simply, when someone is sure about what they think, even if it's something that's close to what I think, I don't necessarily trust their conclusions as much as I used to. So I kind of hold everything in a little bit of suspicion, even my own beliefs and stuff. So I think probably now more than any time in my life, I'm in a better position to learn and change what I think, maybe more so than other people my age who become more entrenched in what they believe. It's freeing too. It's freeing to think, to be able to entertain the idea that you're wrong and not lose everything always be learning. That's true. Yeah. So while I understand a lot of people come to the conclusion that spirituality and God and things like that are not true, and I completely understand why that is. I understand that conclusion completely. It's not an unreasonable conclusion, even from a standpoint where I do believe in those things. But the further I go, the more I'm able to entertain. I think that either I'm wrong, my interpretation's wrong, or something along those lines, and it allows me to adjust my thinking without necessarily having to throw out everything that I've held all along. Who knows what I might think 10 years from now, but I kind of pride myself in that sort of openness, being able to entertain other people's ideas without necessarily having to completely change mine in order to do that. It also makes for more interesting friends too. I don't need people to think the way I think or to even believe the way I believe in order for us to be friends. Now, of course, there are some deal breakers, certain hate-based philosophies that are just non-starters. That there's no way I can have that in my life, and also certain personalities that it's not necessarily the fact that we agree or disagree. It's just that they come from such a combative standpoint that there's just no value in having them around. Like they're not adding anything to my life, and us being friends is not necessarily a positive. So there's some deal breaker type things with that. But being able to rise above my own beliefs allows me to include my circle with a lot more interesting people. Like learning that pineapple pizza is okay, there you go. And the real abomination is cheese pizza, because it's not real pizza, as it has no toppings. There you go. That sometimes you find a hill you need to die upon, and that's the one worth fighting for. Yeah, but it's funny, even the small things, like the idea of like how much I liked certain types of music that I liked and disliked other music, to the point that like it was almost like two tribes getting ready to fight. So being able to appreciate styles of music or entertainment or movie franchises that aren't mine, and being able to understand those things bring people joy, and me like arguing with them about what I don't like about it doesn't bring joy to them or me. It's one way that I'm able to navigate the internet, as a writer and creator, and not get caught up in all the political discussions and things like that. I've just reached a point that I can scroll past those things without engaging. And if people want to kind of get into an interesting discussion, usually those are better in person. But like when I'm at a convention or something and we kind of talk through franchises or books or things that we liked or disliked or had trouble with, we can do it from a standpoint of intellectual curiosity as opposed to fighting to win. Is this the greatest book ever written or greatest movie or greatest pizza topping ever? A hill made pizza's paradise in some people's eyes. There you go. That's how you bring people together. The hill you're going to fight for, make it out of pizza. Why is everybody fighting over dirt all the time? You know what I'm saying? Fight for something that matters. Alright, so we're in the middle of this fight over fish. You get your hands off me and mine, Nate. I mean it. I'm not letting you eat this poison. Yeah, it didn't taste gross, just ask 5-year-old me. To be fair, the standpoint of most atheists are a bit weak and simple. Well, yeah, I think there's some splits there. I prefer to break it all apart and hold the evidence against it. There you go. There is a certain brand of atheism that almost became sort of evangelical. That they're grouping together and the recruiting and the proselytizing. It mirrored the behavior of religions in some way. So it was almost like even if you can see that they're right, like just make that the concession before you even get into the discussion. They were kind of adopting some of the perils and pitfalls of an organized religion or political party, without realizing that that sort of thing does damage to your philosophy the same way that it does damage to religious identities and stuff. So even when there's value in the thinking, when you get too much into groupthink, you get into that. And then of course, like no matter what you have, whether you're talking about science or you're talking about philosophy or anything else, there's a certain percentage of people that have a very limited knowledge of what they're talking about, and they just agree with what somebody said to them. Sometimes they're agreeing with something that's right, but they still are only going along with what they're told and don't really have a standpoint for it. And frankly, we can't be experts in everything. So we do have to admit, the hard thing for us to admit sometimes is that we don't know, which is a powerful statement in itself, being able to admit you don't know something. And then also being able to admit that I know only a little bit about this, and I'm not an expert in this. The internet age has kind of made it to where you have to pretend to be an expert on every subject. Being an expert on Pizza Hills is admirable. See, now you gotta decide what's important in life. Stop wasting your time on epidemiology or physics or any of that kind of stuff. Focus on the thing that you control, which is pizza. Basically, I'm into new atheism. There you go. All right. I'm not letting you eat this poison. The bucket almost flipped over, but Devin seized it from two sides to hold it upright and steady. Speaking of pizza, I should eat dinner. Sadly, not pizza. Great stream. There you go. Yeah, get yourself something to eat. The streamers are the ones that are supposed to forget to eat. If you're watching a stream, you should indulge. All right, we've tested the water, and it's fine. You can't test for everything. You can't test for everything. Don't be crazy, Nate. let go. The poisons could seep in at any moment. The poisons could seep in at any moment. Last time I'm warning you, Nate, you're out of line here. Devin wrenched the bucket free, and Nate stumbled backward to the edge of the dock. He was going over. Devin, say the bucket. Make this a new paragraph. The bucket dropped straight down with a clatter and boom, but no fish were lost. Devin lurched forward and caught Nate by one arm and the front of his shirt. Their weight was still tipping toward the water. Nate, let's make that a new paragraph too. Nate clawed at Devin hard enough to draw blood. Nate clawed at Devin hard enough to draw blood, but Devin didn't let go. He leaned back and pulled toward the center of the dock. Nate's shirt ripped at one seam, but they started to come back the right way. Nate sucked air from between his teeth. Don't let me go. Don't drop me in there. Oh man, you know what? Nate needs an E at the end, for goodness sakes. I'm gonna have to go back through and correct that. Alright. Doggone it. I'm writing Nat. Alright, so I'll have to fix that when I get to the edits. Okay, between his teeth, don't let me go, don't drop me in there. Devin heaved back with all his weight and twisted. Nate stumbled over and rolled away on the dock, still heaving for air. Devin collected his bucket other gear. He stepped over Nate as he left. You still shouldn't eat those, Devin. If I had let you drop in that water, you would have freaked the hell out, but you would have been fine. I saved you because I respect your beliefs. I ask that you leave me alone with my own decisions concerning this. I'm not wrong, Devin. Devin, let that last shout be the end of the conversation. He joined Forrest and Abby at their house to cook the fish. They ate outside on the deck that needed painting and refinishing, but would never get it. Alright, I don't know what painting is, but apparently their deck needs it, so I'm going to switch that to painting. Alright, refinishing, but would never get it. Through the sliding glass, he could see the metal door, like the face of a vault in their living room. Soon that would be their permanent home, and the rest of this lovely property would waste away. Abby asked, "Is he okay?" Devin considered Buster's before he answered. Okay. All right, before he answered. I think he's coming unhinged. Not the most unreasonable reaction to what is coming, but I don't believe he can be prepared enough to mentally survive what is coming. Abby pulled some more fish onto her fork and ate it with none of the fear Nate held for it. Devin wondered. Abby pulled some more fish on her fork and ate it with none of the fear Nate held for it. Devin wondered how Nate would react to seeing the Busters eating fresh caught lake fish too. He's going to be all alone in his bunker if you don't join him. She said. That might be most of what this is about. Forrest said, if you just help him prep his space, even if you don't intend to join him, it might help him through it. It won't, Devin said over a mouthful of fish. He will force me into his bunker if I show even a hint of helping. Also, there is nothing left to do. The place is packed. All he's doing at this point is rearranging, inventorying, and piling surplus into other bunkers that will do him no good if this goes as badly as we think it will. Maybe it won't be that bad. Maybe it won't be that bad, Abby said. We might be okay. Doesn't hurt to prepare for the worst. It seems to be hurting him. Devin said. If I join him, it will just make his supplies last half as long. It's the loneliness that's going to kill him. Forrest said. Okay. Almost done with this scene, and then we'll wrap up the story here. Then invite him into your bunker. The Busters exchanged a look. We've discussed it, Abby said. Forrest continued. We don't think it's a good idea. Then don't try to convince me to scratch out a few more meaningless days in his company. Trapped inside a metal box. They continued to eat and talked about a few benign topics, mostly of the world gone by. The fish was good, but Devin, how am I spelling his name? It's with an I. I need to check that and make sure I didn't spell his name different ways through the story. I have my work cut out for me in the editing process. They continued to eat and talked about a few benign topics, mostly of the world gone by. The fish was good, but Devin couldn't finish it. And he didn't bother to save any. Alright, scene break. Devin started to rouse from sleep in his hammock as he detected the familiar sound of Nate's approach. He woke slowly to discover it was still mid-morning. He must have only barely fallen asleep. Nate's steps were familiar, but sounded different somehow. The hammock flipped before Devin ever saw Nate. He landed hard on his belly and had to regain his air. Screw you, Nate. club came down hard on the back of Devon's head. It was an iron pipe, but Devon never saw it. He did spy Forrest and Abby up on the hill, watching. Could you work with a silent keyboard? I don't care enough to change it. I don't know if it's coming across loud in the microphone or whatever. But I think it actually helps me know that I've hit the key, like when I'm moving between keys. So I'm not sure how I would do with the silent keyboard. Some people have said they like the sound. I don't know if it's louder than my voice the way I'm leaning back from the microphone or whatever, but I can just kind of stick with it. It's the one I use when I'm not on stream too, so I don't even notice the noise as much anymore. I think maybe the noise is kind of my background too, in terms of like it's the soundtrack to writing. Oh, you like it? Good. I think it may be the soundtrack to writing for me, because I used to play music like in the background a little bit, but I've found that kind of distracting. So the only time I'll do that is if there's something going on outside, like construction across the river, or if someone's using a leaf blower in the neighborhood out past the woods that surround my house. Then I'll like put on headphones, but usually I'll do like ocean noises or something, because I don't particularly like any sound. So I guess it's the sound of the animals in the woods, and the sound of the fan and the clicking keyboard is just kind of is what I associate with the process of writing. Got a silent keyboard, but keyboard noises in opera. There you go. He did spy Forrest and Abby up on the hill watching. He didn't have time to process what their part in this might be. Nate laid into his friend and beat him to death on the ground under his hammock. Abby clung to Forrest, and they backed up a step as Nate looked up at them. He was covered in splatter. I had to do it, he said. I had to do it, he said. He posed a threat to us. I told him that, but he didn't care. He wouldn't listen. We understand, Forrest said. Abby recoiled. Abby jolted next to him and started to say, "We most certainly quiet," Forrest snapped. "Just be quiet." deal with him later. Nate added, I didn't want to waste bullets. He said it as if that explained everything and excused the mess. We should be making final preparations, Forrest said. You should clean up your mess. He was your friend. It's the least you can do. Nate nodded and looked down at the body. Forrest turned Abby away from the scene. Forrest turned Abby away from the scene and guided her back toward their cabin and bunker. He killed Devon. Abby said with no strength or breath behind her words. You really killed him. He's insane. I'll take care of it, Forrest said. Can't trust him anymore. He has to go. I'll waste a bullet to see that he doesn't threaten us. Anymore. She didn't say anything else to him about it, so Forrest took that as tacit approval that this was the end